Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop and welcome to the home of Sketchy repairs. So today we've got something a little bit different. We've got a, what is it, it's Kawasaki Z650 in the workshop. It's come from a training school, and long story short, a student's crashed a bike, ripped the chain off, and he's ripped all the engine casing off as well. So where the chains come off, it snapped the engine casing, which is, this bit isn't too bad, but it's also pulled the oil pickup pipe. So it's pulled that completely out of the side of the engine casing and ripped the mounting point as well. So this isn't a problem, we'll get a new one of those, but the engine casing is in a bit of a bad way. So what we're going to do though, we're going to do a bit of a sketchy repair. The owner doesn't want me to strip the engine down and weld the casings up. Instead, we're going to go liquid metal, a bit of JB Weld, and then some Helicoils. So I thought what we'll do is I will film as I'm doing the repair. Whether it works or not, we shall find out. So I'm sort of 50-50 at the minute whether it's actually going to work, but it's a nice cheap option, so we're going to give that a go first. So I thought I'd take you along on a little journey, something a little bit different. Normally I'm pulling tools apart and having a bit of a play, but this is actually a bit more of an actual job. But I thought, as it's something a little bit different, I'd demonstrate using the Helicoil kit and show you how sketchy we can do this repair. So I'm going to pause this and then we can have a quick look at the bike, have a look at the damage. Okay, so now we're at the side of the engine. You can hopefully see a bit more of the damage. Move these out of the way. So that's torn that whole section off there, which wasn't really an issue. I don't think that interfaces with anything, but we'll see. I might have to tidy that up a little bit. I think that's just a bit more of a chain guard. It's sort of done its job, but at the same time it's pulled the oil pump pipe out. That goes not like that. Maybe it's this way. There we go. To this top part. You've got an oil seal there. That sits like that. And then this sort of sits further down there. So that will go down there. And then that, this point here, this little spigot here, should sit, I don't know, somewhere like there anyway. Maybe it's this way, maybe it is this way. Yeah, look, there you go. So that will go. Am I being an idiot here? No, there we go. Okay, so then I think the sprocket cover, focus. Any other person would edit all that out, so it'd make it look like I know exactly what I was doing. But so yeah, so that's it like that. Oil seal will go on there, and then this is what the issue is. So this we can live with as long as it's not leaking. It doesn't look like it's split the casing any further than that, although I think that's a bit of a shadow. I may grind that back and we'll have a proper look at it. But if I'm even closer, whoop, there we go. So what we've got there is a bit of a ripped casing. So we will clean all this up, get some liquid metal in that, we'll fill it with liquid metal, centre drill it, tap it, and then we'll helicoil it. And all going well, that will be strong enough to just hold that in place like so. And then we should be good, as long as we're sealed for oil, so there's not a lot of pressure through there. There's nothing really hanging off it, it's not exactly structural. Needs a good clean up though. And then we shall go from there. So sketchy repair, but if it works, then we're all good. And then it can go back to getting students passed on their DAS. But you can see where the engine cages come off of it. So it's all a little bit loose. Can't be good. Right, we'll set the camera up and then we'll give this a good clean up. Holy moly. And that comes off like that. Oh, I need a cup of tea. And that's the realities of working on motorbikes. Not like these Instagram, TikTok-y people, how they'd say how it is. So that was incredible. So what I had to do, put the bike in gear, scaffold tube, breaker bar. Thought I'd actually broken the breaker bar, and then I used a ratchet strap around the rear wheel to hold it in. Chain's pretty loose, eh? You can see how that's fallen off. But make sure I haven't damaged that rear wheel, because that was tight. I'm going to pull the clutch in, let's release some of that pressure. Okay. There we go. Oh. Yeah. So yeah, ratchet strap, probably ruined that strap, but it's worked. Breaker bar, scaffold tube, and as easy as that, it's popped off. Right, cup of tea time, and a cry. So what is a helicoil kit, and when would we use it? I thought we'd have a little bit of a chat. I'd do some dodgy drawings, and I can explain exactly how a helicoil kit works and when we would use it. So in this case, we've got our aluminium cases, our aluminum casing, that's then pulled out on one side. So there's like a cross section. Pen's already running out, it's a good start. So you'd appreciate that. Let's go. So the bolt is never dodgy drawing. So there's our thread. It's never going to grip on this section here. So it's just going to tear out. You're never going to be able to actually get that tight. So what you could do is you could drill further. You could drill and go further down. But in this case, we're then going to go into the inside of the engine where there's oily stuff, which is not what we want. So that's why, well, in an ideal world, we would weld this back up and then we'd go in the top, centre drill that, and then drill it back out to its original size. You could also oversize it, but in this case, for the bike, we just haven't got the spare metal for that. Plus, it's really torn out. So the other option, like I said originally, was to tear the casings apart and, like I say, weld it up and do it properly. But for now, we're going to do a little JB Weld repair and a helicoil. So how does the helicoil work? So go back to our original drawing. A little bit bigger. So that's what we're faced with at the minute. So what we're going to do, we're going to fill this in with JB Weld, plus reinforce it slightly, and then that will give us a nice, hopefully a fairly flat one hole sort of material to work with. Next thing we'll do is we'll come along with a drill bit, one of these, one of these things. I'm going to come along and we're going to drill a hole just all the way down to the original depth. So I will measure that depth, make sure we get that right sort of depth going. So we'll use that. Following that, what we'll do, we'll use one of these, a tap. Hopefully you can see that. So what we'll do with a tap is we'll then put a thread just in there like that. So it's not going to fit, it might fit. So we'll use that tap to create a thread on both sides. So now we've got a threaded side. In theory, if we tap that out, you could then thread a bolt into that, but it's not going to be strong enough, especially on this corner here. Go back to the black pen. This corner here, that there is quite likely to tear out, especially because it's just Araldite or just JB Weld, which is, you know, it's an epoxy resin with some sort of metal filler, so it's nothing special. So as soon as you tighten that down, this whole section will pull out, so it's not really worth doing. just never going to be strong enough. So then what we do next is we take our insert, which then fits on our tool, like so. There's our tool, and there's our insert. Right, where were we? Yeah, so that helicoil will get screwed into there using this tool, like that. Oh, that's gone miles. Screw down all the way until it reaches the bottom of the hole. And then last but not least, when that's nice and snug, we then use a punch to then punch the inside of that little spigot there. See that little piece of wire right in the centre? Hopefully that's focused. And what you'll do is you'll punch that out, and that snaps that, and then you can then take your bolt and go red for the bolt. So we got our Allen cap bolt there, which then can be driven all the way in. That way you've got the threads interfacing with the stainless threads of the helicoil, as opposed to the aluminium and whatever that epoxiness is there for a JB Weld. So that way, in theory, this is a lot stronger, less likely to pull out. You can then put a lot more newton meters of force on that as well. So that should hold nice and tight. Should being the key word, but who knows? So that's the idea behind the helicoil kit. It's pretty simple, really. So it's, when they work, they're pretty good, and they can get you out of a real tight spot. So yeah, so it's just a quick lesson. We're going to go back to the bike now, and we are going to carry on with the repair. So let's leave it there, and then let's first thing we're going to do, have a quick tidy up around here, get some of the paint off with a wire brush, and then we're going to get the grinder and just investigate that little crack there to make sure it doesn't go all the way through to the casing, because if it does, we might have an issue. Okay, good news. So that crack has disappeared. So that's good. Found the end of that, and it didn't go too deep, which is nice. I may put a bit of JB Weld and just smooth all this out and then grind that back. I don't really want to take too much more metal away from that. I've just ground it back to the good. And then I've prepped around here, so it's nice and rough, ready to accept that JB Weld. And you can see there the threads, what threads were left. I've just cleaned them up. What I'm going to do now, and I've done underneath as well, it's just a little rubber plug that I've made. So what I'm going to do now, clean it with some isopropyl. Stay away from any sort of WD or any sort of oil-based cleaners. There you go. So I want a nice clean area that the JB Weld will stick to. So give that a good old wipe down, good clean with the alcohol, and then we can start mixing up. So first layer of JB Weld is on. I went as thick as I could. I also used an Allen key, one of these boys, to push the JB Weld all the way down to the bottom, like the back of the hole. Because if I just laid it over the top, there'd be a nice big air pocket there, because the air wouldn't be able to get past it. So forced that down, back to, got it all the way to the back of the hole, and then kept applying it more and more until it was starting to sag and drop off. So that is as much as I could get safely on. I'm going to let this go tacky, probably leave it about an hour, and then add the second coat. I want to build it up before it cures ideally, because I don't really want any separations of the layers. Whether that's right or not, who knows, but that's the way I've always done it, and it always seems to work better that way. So yeah, it's got a nice shine to it. So give it an hour and I'll put that second coat up and we'll build it up. Hopefully that'll be enough. Okay, 24 hours later, back in the workshop. It looks hard enough. It's set, it looks like it's set quite well. Sounds pretty solid. So we'll whip that out. And then what we can do, we'll face that off and neaten it up a little bit. And then we can go ahead and centre drill. See, it's still a little bit soft. So we will take our time with this. At least try and take some of the top off. I think if it was fully cured, I wouldn't be able to slice it like this, but it's cured enough for me to do this, I think. It's going to take a while though. Here's a better sort of angle for the repair. So that's all nice and flat. A little bit of an imprint there, like an indent, but that's no problem. It's good enough for me. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to try and find the centre of that, roughly there, and then we're going to drill this out. It's going to be slightly bigger because then we're going to tap it, and then we'll put the helicoil in, and that should bring it back down to its original size. So I'm going to take a little bit of time now. I'm going to try and find exactly where that centre is, centre punch it, and then drill it to the right depth with a tiny little drill. So we'll go ahead and do that. Super soft still, but we'll drill that centre hole. That should give it a little bit of breathing room. I know it cures by chemical reaction, but I find sometimes where it hits the air, it will cure a little bit faster. Still very soft, very gummy. So it hasn't quite been 24 hours yet, but that'll do for me. Okay, so holes now drilled. We're going to go in with the tap. You see I've marked the depth, and that should give me enough depth for 3 helicoils back to back. So if that focuses, I'm going to move the camera. We'll give that a go. What could go wrong? Told you it was going to be sketchy, didn't I? So, last thing, now the threads are all cut, is to insert the helicoil. So, hopefully you can see that. So what I've done, I've just used a diamond bit there, and I've just deepened, focus. Yeah, so I've just deepened that groove slightly, so it should make it a bit easier to knock out that point there once it's in, just because it's quite deep. So yeah, so we insert that onto the tool like so. Then, all going well, we should turn in there. It fits quite nicely. On the box it says to just go until it's flush, but I'm tempted to go a little bit deeper. We'll get 2 in, maybe 3. It's deep enough for 3, but we might just do the 2. We'll get that in. So go a little bit deeper. I think we'll go for 2 because it's that. I just remembered they do stretch slightly, and that's fairly bottomed out. And what we'll do, we'll actually tighten that down as much as we can, and then we'll knock that out. So that's quite tight. And then that's now at the bottom of the hole. Hopefully you can see that. It went in quite smoothly. So next then we take the punch. Bear in mind, if this wasn't a blind hole and it was going into the engine, you wouldn't use the punch at all. Obviously you wouldn't be doing this repair, but you would use some long nose pliers and pull it out. But what I will do is find a hammer, and then what we'll do is we'll take this tool and we'll just knock out that back of that helicoil. Let me go find a hammer. As easy as that, snapped off. Will I ever find it? No. There it is. So let's wind the second one in. So as long as they meet up properly, it shouldn't be a problem. Time for a test fit. Just put a little bit of blue dye on the back of the O-ring. Just make sure we're roughly in the right place. And see if everything tightens up nicely. There you go, that's pushed on the O-ring. Give that a little tweak up. Make sure it's yep, it tightens up nicely. It's nice and solid. Bear in mind this is still the old pipe, the oil pipe, so it's probably slightly bananaed, but everything's roughly in the right spot, which is good. So take this back out. I will use a bit of thread lock on there as well. We don't want that screw coming, that bolt coming loose. Oh, well, there we go. There's the O-ring in place. That blue dye's obviously stuck it to it. So yeah, it's good. It's good enough for me. See, the O-ring hasn't covered any of the oil way at all. Slightly high, but that may be because this has taken a hit and it's a little bit bananaed. You can see that flat there. See that flat? Just here. So it's pushed this whole corner up slightly. So when we get the new one, that should pull that a little bit further down. So good news. So next thing I'm going to do is tidy up all of this stuff here. Give that a little bit of love. Make it look a little bit professional, a little like it should be. Yeah, it's good enough for me. And there we have it, a glorious repair sponsored by JB Weld and Hopes and Dreams. So it's all done, a little bit of black spray paint, tried to sand and smooth it off a little bit, but there's only so much you can do with JB Weld. I could probably spend about 2 or 3 weeks moulding that and machining it to make it look nice, but to be honest, it all fits quite nice and tight, and then this goes straight over the top anyway. That bolt hole there will line up with that, which is a weird design because that's why it's been ripped off, because of where the chains come off, it's ripped the whole thing off. In fact, look, I think, there you go, look. So that's another thing I need to repair. So yeah, real bad design actually. I'm not sure why you would do that. Just make a bracket, Kawasaki. But yeah, repair went well. I think it's all held quite nice and tight. I say once the new tube, the pipe arrives from Japan, we'll get that on and we'll check it's oil tight. I can put everything back, like I've got a speedo sensor down there, and then sort of make sure, you can't see that in frame, but make sure everything's not open to the elements. So that's going to be all from me today. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've learned a little bit more about a real repair as opposed to your clean, clinical helicoil repair videos you normally get on YouTube, where it's just a guy in a lab coat drilling a flat block of steel, aluminium, or aluminium, sorry, and then threading in a helicoil. So this was a real life scenario. I doubled up on the helicoils, which is not something you normally do. It's not something that's recommended, but why not? I feel like that's probably more is better than less. So I'm going to leave it here and say I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed the video, something a bit different from me. A little bit more of an informative video as opposed to just tearing apart bits and pieces and not knowing how to put them back together again. So give us a like, give us a subscribe, and give us a comment as well. Let us know exactly what I've done wrong here. Let's say JB Weld isn't my forte, and I'm sure I did many things wrong. So you guys can pick up on that and you can let me know. I say stick around for the next one. I think the next one will be a diesel heater. I just arrived. Super cheap. Too cheap. I actually thought it was a scam, but it has arrived, so we'll probably take that apart because I don't know how they work. So I've got an idea, but it'd be interesting to see how it's put together, especially for that sort of money. So yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and also, more importantly, let us know what you think. Let us know where I went wrong. Let us know how to improve these videos. And yeah, I will see you on the next one. Take care.